What's up, guys? Today on Dirt Lifestyle, we're going to shop for a used 4x4. I get sent emails all the time with links to different Craigslist ads or whatever. People ask me if it's a good deal or not. And today, I want to give you the tools and some lesser known strategies in order to inspect your own 4x4, research your own 4x4, and even some tactics on how to negotiate. My mom was in the market for a newer, comfortable, and capable SUV. After seeing the success we've had with our Discovery 2, she said that she wanted a Land Rover, so I approached buying her Land Rover like I've approached buying every used car I've ever bought. Research, inspections, and negotiations. Before you go shopping for your next off-roader, I would recommend making a wants list and a needs list and figuring out where you're willing to compromise. The 4x4 market is giant, and there are a lot of great vehicles with a lot of great options. But there is no like Swiss Army knife vehicle here. There's no one vehicle that has everything, and then there's always a compromise when it comes to automotive features and functions. So figure out what kinds of features you can live with, what you can live without, and then do tons and tons of research. I mean, you need to whittle it down to a brand, then whittle it down to a model, and then figure out what years of that model are the best years, because auto manufacturers will make big changes between 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012 based on recalls, based on a whole bunch of different things. And if you do your research ahead of time and you understand what kinds of things to look out for, it's going to make it to where you're going to have a much more successful and trouble-free ownership, because you understand what types of things you're going to be faced with whenever you own this vehicle. When my mom asked me to help her find an SUV, I really considered these wants and needs lists, and I thought about every make and model of vehicle. She said she was interested in a Land Rover, but I thought about everything under the sun just to make sure that I got my mom into something that was comfortable and capable, and I just wanted to get her something nice. So the more research I did, the more I found that the Land Rover Discovery 4, or the LR4 as they call it in America, met all of our needs and then some. It's very plush, it's very comfortable. If she goes up in the mountains and she wants to do a hike, she can raise the suspension and make it taller so she has more ground clearance. It has a rear locker, it has awesome traction control. So this thing is great. It's gonna be able to meet all of our wants and needs. And after doing a ton of research, I determined that the 2013 is the exact vehicle that we wanted, based on a bunch of the updates they've done up to 2013 and the fact that it's the last year of the naturally aspirated V8. For my mom, I didn't want to put a vehicle with a supercharger just because I didn't want to have to deal with the extra components to work on. I'm gonna be the mechanic on this thing, right? So I wanted to make sure it's stupid simple. Naturally aspirated V8 doesn't get much simpler than that. So because I did all this research, I was able to determine 2013 LR4. It makes it so much easier to search what you want when you know exactly what you want. And then if I had to compromise with a 2012 or a 2014, I know what kinds of compromises I'm making because I did all the research before I ever even left the house. Once you find a rig that you want to go check out, I would recommend calling the dealership or calling the owner and telling them not to start the vehicle. You want to have it ice cold when you get there, and in a minute I'll explain why. Make sure that whenever you go, you bring a notepad and something to write with. You want to take notes of everything wrong that you see with the vehicle. We're going to be using this whenever we negotiate the price later on. If I've inspected the exterior and interior of the vehicle and it's something that I can live with, then I'll move on to the drivetrain. First thing I check is to make sure that the engine is completely cold. I put my hands around the engine to make sure that it hasn't been started or warmed up recently, because whenever you cold start an engine, you can tell a lot about the engine right away. I then take a flashlight and I check for visible oil leaks and just inspect all the fluids, make sure that there's no oil in the coolant, no coolant in the oil, things like that. I move on to checking the serpentine belt and the intake hoses. I'll just kind of move the belt around, look for cracks, and I'll wiggle all the intake hoses to make sure there's not a loose connection. If there is a loose connection, you're probably going to have a lot of dirt and buildup inside of your intake manifold and maybe even in the cylinder heads. If you find something that's of concern, I would write it down. The only thing that I found was a loose intake hose, so I know that long term I'm definitely going to want to spray some cleaner or something into that intake manifold and get it cleaned up. If it starts easy and it idles smooth, you likely have good compression injectors, spark plugs, and a healthy battery. But if it starts poorly or it idles rough, make sure you write this down. This is important information. If you can fit under the vehicle, you need to slide under there and you need to take a look. There's a lot of really important things that you can see from under the underside of a vehicle, and a lot of times you can look at it without having it up on a lift. I'm lucky this rig has an adjustable ride height, giving me lots of room to squeeze under there and get a good look. Now the fun part. We've got to inspect underneath. This is super important. It is a huge pain. If you're at a dealership and they're really cool, they might put it on a lift for you if you ask nicely. I wasn't fortunate enough to do that, so yes, when I inspected this vehicle, I crawled underneath it in the parking lot and I looked for about 5 minutes, just checking over all the ball joints, shaking any steering component I could grab, shaking any drive shaft or CV shaft that I could grab, anything that I can reach, I am inspecting. And you just take your flashlight, you look around everything. Look for bad bushings, look for, who knows, you could find a really bad like dent or break in the exhaust. Just look for something that could cost money and write it down on that list. It's a very important step. Newer 4x4s like this one have a big skid plate that's in the way, so you're gonna have to get creative with a flashlight and try to find a hole here or there that you can shine the light and just see your best. We're looking at the bottom of the skid plate for any sort of oil. There's no oil drips on this, which is great. And after I inspected everything else, this clearly has not been used off-road and it looks tip-top. Now that we've done a full visual inspection of the vehicle, it's time for the drive test. I would say that this is what most people are familiar with when it comes to buying a vehicle. Everyone has a dad or a grandpa or an uncle or somebody that showed them how to drive a used car to see if there's something wrong with it. But I would say with 4x4s in particular, there are two tests that I would think that people forget about. One would be getting it in and out of 4 low, and then the second one would be hang out between like 30 miles an hour and 45 miles an hour if you're testing something that's lifted. This is the speed range where you see a ton of death wobble in lifted vehicles, and I would spend a lot of time in these speed ranges going really slow through that acceleration to see if you can trigger death wobble in any way. If it's got no death wobble, sweet. You found a really nice rig. If it has a little bit of death wobble, no big deal. Even if it has a lot of death wobble, no big deal. Just write it down in the notebook, and then this is something that will be reflected in the price whenever you go to negotiate. This last part of buying a car is probably the most uncomfortable for a lot of people who are going out and buying a car themselves, and that is negotiations. But it doesn't have to be. Come prepared, make a list of the different things that you want to talk about. If they're already asking a fair price, if they're asking what fair market value is for the vehicle, you can usually drive the price down a little bit more by talking about the things that you wrote down, the different concerns, services that need to be done. I came very prepared, so I knew this had 73,000 miles on it. Well, there is a bunch of different fluids that need to be changed out at 70,000 miles. So go online, look up 70K service on a Land Rover LR4, and there's a bunch of things that need to be done, and I can use that as leverage to negotiate the price down. A lot of dealerships will do this work for you if you suggest it. You'll usually end up paying full price, but sometimes you can get a couple grand worth of services taken care of before you even drive it off the lot, and that will save you a lot of money. It's very easy. You talk about your list. With mine, it's very simple stuff. It has a crack in the rear taillight. The taillights are not cheap. No modern taillights are cheap. It's got that loose intake hose, so it's going to need an induction service because of that loose intake hose, but this is also a direct injected engine. Direct injected engines get a lot of buildup around the valves because the fuel doesn't pass by the valves and keep them clean. So these are all costs that I have built into here, and this is all stuff that I'm going to do for my mom. This is all stuff I can do myself. This is all stuff you can do yourself. But you can use this as leverage to negotiate. And there's no reason to be a jerk. If you're buying private party, the guy's already asking well under fair market value, don't beat him up. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I just show up, the guy's asking way too low for the truck you're buying or whatever, and I don't beat him up on price. There's no reason for it. Let's all get along. There's no reason to be a jerk. But there are a lot of instances, especially with dealerships, where you can squeeze a few more dollars out of the purchase, and you can make it much more fair for yourself because you've armed yourself with a little bit of information. I want to end this video by saying this is not the perfect list. I wanted this video to basically be some sort of inspiration or give you some extra ideas of things that you don't already have on your checklist. Or if you're one of those people that emails me, my inbox gets filled with people who want me to look at a vehicle form and stuff, and I don't do that. I want to give you guys the tools to go and inspect this stuff yourself and know if you're getting a good deal. you're in Connecticut and you're emailing me about a Mitsubishi Montero, there's no way I could know if it's a good vehicle. I live in Washington. So I hope that this video gives you some of the basic tools to go out and make sure that you're not getting ripped off. Go out, make sure that if you're buying a vehicle that needs work, you're very aware going into it what it's going to take and how much money and everything else. So this is just to prepare you to go do this stuff yourself, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to help support the channel, you can go to theunderlifestyle.com. We have t-shirts, hats, we have neck gaiters, we have all kinds of stuff. We even have a link to our Patreon account, so if you've learned anything from any of my videos, consider donating there as well. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at DirtLifestyleNate. We'll see you next time.